We at Potentially Perfect come from backgrounds that embraced all consoles at their given times. We each appreciate what each platform can offer and celebrate their various victories. This is true for many people. But what if I told you there were people out there who only like one platform manufacturer? And it's not enough for people to enjoy their console. No, oh no. They must constantly ridicule other platforms as well as those who enjoy those platforms. Doesn't that sound absolutely disgusting? Good thing no such people exist, am I right? Welcome back to Potentially Perfect, home of the world's most jovial gamers. My name is Rachel, and today on Simply Put, we're talking about the age-old internet crime of port begging. Now, if you don't know what port begging is, that's understandable. Frankly, the nomenclature is relatively new, despite the concept having existed for quite some time. Port begging, as it's understood today, is the act of asking or telling developers of a certain game to port, or move, their game over to your platform. This has become more and more prevalent bad habit, brought along by the Nintendo Switch. Now, don't get me wrong, the Switch itself inherently didn't do this. This was the fan base, which Stilappo is unapologetically a part of. But we'll get to the Switch a little later. Right now, I'm going to talk to you about the Wii. Ah, yes, the Wii. That device your grandma threw her hip out playing. Now, you might be asking me, why, Rachel? That console is utterly irrelevant. And besides, the Wii got a ton of ports. To which I would answer, yes, it did. It did get a lot of ports. And maybe that was the point I was trying to make if you'd let me finish, you impatient representation of my audience. Anyway, yes, the Wii was an interesting piece of gaming history. At the time, it was a console that sat beside the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 during that generation. And if you remember correctly and didn't live under a video game rock, you'd know that the console was leagues below its competitors' capabilities as a console. However, it sold absolutely wonderfully, and because of this, it saw a plethora of games, including multi-platform releases. I'm talking Call of Duty, various Madden games, and the king of the Wii, Just Dance. It's almost like Western developers have a rather obvious habit of following install bases. Damn, sounds downright logistically sound, doesn't it? You see, it doesn't really matter that the Wii had the graphical ability of a TI-86. It mattered that there was an audience of people who enjoyed video games. Think about it. If you had the option, would you rather fish in a puddle or a lake? If you're not being a smartass, you'll say the lake. A lot of people tend to fault the game developers for this, but at the end of the day, they run businesses. Have you ever tried to run a company solely off the kindness of your heart? It's not easy. You know what is easy? Charging people for shit. So yes, install bases are important, but what's almost as important is the idea that a game can be made to run on something despite the given hardware capabilities as long as the developer or publisher sees it fit. So all of that said, it's time to talk about the Switch again. Nintendo has, yet again, put out a console that by comparison cannot do the same things as its counterparts. What it does do is offer a way to play that others cannot. This gimmick is not to be taken lightly. Also, as a quick side note, a gimmick in and of itself is not a bad thing. A gimmick, by definition, is a trick or device meant to entice someone into purchasing something. A gimmick is not an arbitrary addition to a console, it's a selling point. Technically, the ability to output a game in 4K itself is a gimmick. That being said, the Switch's gimmick in question gives it an advantage, especially in the Japanese market. And we've seen a lot of Japanese developers embrace it. Save for Capcom, who at the time of this video still hasn't released a Western Monster Hunter video for the device. And so the discussion comes full circle. There was a time that Western developers were waiting for the Switch's install base to lift a bit more before venturing out and putting more games in the console. From a consumer standpoint, that time has come. The Switch is selling extremely well and the install base is pretty solid. So where are the games? The simple answer, probably in development. There seems to be a common misconception that games take about 5 minutes to make. That's not a thing. These things take years. So the introduction of a new console during the middle of development should by no means lead to the assumption that that console's version of a game would be anywhere near the initial release. So one could say to exercise patience. Honestly, the simple act of asking for a game on Twitter has never, as far as I know, gotten that game to be made. Twitter is not a good way of making business decisions. I don't want for anyone to think that Nintendo fans are the only ones who do this. On social media, the world seemed to erupt for PlayStation fans when it was thought that Tomb Raider was going to stay an Xbox exclusive. And don't get me started on Activision announcing an exclusive Spider-Man game for the PlayStation 4. Everyone is guilty here. Enjoy the games you do have, and if it is monetarily feasible, get more consoles. If not getting a game isn't the end of the world. And if you're a Switch owner, give it time. You won't get every game, but you will get some. Just because a game isn't new to the market doesn't mean it can't be new to you. Stay perfect.